about. Hey, Paul. Great to see you around.
Thank you.
Hi, it's been a while that we have not seen you in this office, but now you are here with us, and then we are hosting you in this podcast studio in Sabadell in Spain, and we are together with Felipe, our EMEA brand manager for Zebra.
Yeah.
How are you? It's not
Very
the first time
nice.
for you here with us.
Yeah, been already a couple of times. Yeah.
Okay, so I think Felipe is great to have today Paul with us. You know, we've been talking to him for ages. Paul is the EMEA Zebra Regional Product Manager. You know, and we are going to be exploring today one of those areas of technology which is absolutely impacting every single aspect of our job, and it's of course a great market opportunity. We are going to be talking about the wearable technology, and it's one of those technologies that is coming from, or it looks to be coming from 0 to 100, right? In a few years, it was an almost non-existent technology, and now it happens to be everywhere. So I think the first thing I really want to address, with Paul is, hey, what is this technology? You know, what means wearable technology?
So I think if I had to define what a wearable device was, basically it's something, a mobile computer that can store and transmit data of some sort.
Yeah.
And it can be worn on a person. So obviously the size and shape varies very much. I think also we're obviously very familiar from a consumer perspective.
Correct.
If you think about it, we've got smartwatches out there,
Yeah.
we've got fitness trackers out there, sleep trackers, medical devices now, so we can remotely monitor health.
Yeah.
There's this growing area of wearable devices that are the kind of device for all the different use cases and everything else.
It's very funny you have a trouble with the language, because normally it's us who are normally having this situation, right? I mean, the non-speaker, but I mean, you're doing great.
As a native, I should be fine, but there we go. But anyway,
We always rely too much in the natives, right? So maybe we should not. I don't know, but that's absolutely the truth. So can you give us some facts, because I mean, honestly, we see this technology everywhere. As you said, there are millions of units. I think I read somewhere that in 2021, there were more than 500 million, wearable devices shipped, across the world. But of course, we are including all the consumer, let's say, devices. So can you give us some facts on that?
yeah. So back in 2021, Gartner did a study, and they were looking at the sales of consumer devices in the wearable space, and they reported that in 2019 it was a $46 billion business, and they said that by the end of 2022, so by the end of this year, it would have exceeded $90 billion.
Whoa.
Double.
Almost double. So we could expect that also in the coming 4 years, this market is going to be also to double its size.
Very
Correct.
much so, very much so. But what I found interesting about that data was I thought smartwatches would be the biggest proportion.
Yeah, correct.
Actually, they were number two. The number one proportion actually was smart earphones.
Yeah.
So the idea, obviously, that you've got not just your music, but you can talk to your digital assistant. So whether it's Siri, whether it's Google,
Correct.
having that. So clearly, while we see the watches, we don't perhaps consider that earphones are smart devices.
Can you also do that for the warehouse?
Yeah. I mean, we've been doing that for years in the warehouse.
Absolutely. We are
course,
talking
yeah.
about, collection of goods by
picking,
voice,
etc.
exactly,
Yeah.
picking by voice, etc. So it's really, really happening there. So it's happening. We are talking about hands-free, and I think this technology, it's not only about, let's say, the collection of data. It's not only about the efficiency you can provide also to the market. It's also about the workers themselves, how easy it is for the workers to adopt this technology, to get used to a new job position. So when we mean hands-free, I think it's a much wider concept on what we are simply understanding, right?
Yeah, I think that's really important to take away from an enterprise use. It's about how do you make that worker most efficient, most comfortable, most safe as well.
Yeah.
And that idea of having your hands free to do the job and technology supporting you in that role, that's what makes a massive difference.
And I think in terms of recruiting people, that probably can be a big value add, right? Because I mean, we are all suffering from shortage of people, shortage of employees in the warehousing, and once you get one and you need to invest a lot of time in training him, and then they leave after a few months, then you have a trouble, right? And we are experiencing this, at least in Europe, in every single country. We have a shortage of people. So having systems which are permitting, which are letting the people to get a faster learning on the job they have to do daily, but also they are helping to make this job in a much more efficient way, it also represents a huge, huge advantage. And I am sure most of the customers that we are normally talking on daily business, on daily basis, they might not be aware that that could be a very, very good point to sell, to open doors, and to get in a deeper level with most of their end users, most of the customers.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, labour shortage is a significant challenge that everybody's facing right now. If you think about it in a warehouse, if you can give the worker the best possible tool to do their job, then clearly they're going to be more motivated. Also they are bonus based.
Yeah.
So if they've got to do in a warehouse, if you're talking about a picking environment, they've got 200 picks to do in an hour.
Yeah.
Actually, if you're going to give them the best tool so they can hit their metrics, be more comfortable, not cause themselves any bodily strain, of course they're going to want to come back to work. They're going to stay with you. And so, yeah, it's a win-win for both the employer and the employee.
Absolutely. I really have in my imagination the feeling of a Robocop, working in a warehouse. It's like a, hey. But I mean, let's face it. Robocop is a movie from the 80s, so this technology at the end is not that, let's say, that new. It has been existing there. You in Zebra have been developing also wearable units for many years.
Yes, in fact, this year is the 25th anniversary of our first wearable mobile computer. So 1997, we put out there a device that sat on somebody's wrist, had a barcode scanner on the finger, and it meant that they could be completely hands-free, but get the information about, right, I'm scanning this, I'm moving this, I'm doing this quantity. 25 years. In fact, a few years ago, I did some work and I provided an example to one of the London design museums.
Yeah.
So the Victoria and Albert Museum now has in its collection a wearable computer from the 90s.
In a museum. That's big words, eh? You said Royal Albert Museum?
So it's the Victoria and Albert Design Museum in London.
Wow. That's fantastic,
That's
I mean,
impressive.
Felipe, when you started 25 years ago, I guess,
There was
maybe I
already
should not
this
say 25
technology.
years ago, but some years ago,
Some
when
years
you
ago,
started,
it's better.
I think you were not really seeing this kind of technology, let's say, widely
No, not
spread
at all.
in the market,
I mean,
right?
We heard about that. We heard about the voice speaking, what we're talking about, but really wearable devices, I think that's, well, for some people like me, which is in this industry since a long years, I already heard about wearable, but more and more we hear about that. And I think that also when you are searching for a solution in a warehouse or in a different environment, I wonder what are the points that you need to understand or that you need to define to pick really a wearable instead of a traditional. I would say traditional solution like a mobile computer and etc. So I'm wondering what will be the key points to
That's a
pick up
good
this
point.
kind
I mean,
of,
if you're a VAR,
solution.
you're a reseller,
Yeah, exactly.
what do you offer to your, how do you start your offer
Exactly.
to your
So
customers?
I think I want to actually back up just a little bit. I mean,
Yeah.
we've talked about the warehouse. The really important thing, and particularly for the VARs, is it's moving outside of the warehouse. We're now seeing actually wearables in the likes of retail. So
Correct.
picking for internet orders, for example, all of a sudden now those are being picked for 1 or 2 hours in a retail store. So broaden the thinking, but you're absolutely right. The key elements to think about when you're talking about a wearable device is, what am I trying to do? I mean, that's got to be number one. Am I working for 8 hours every day where I've got this thing on my wrist? How can I make it comfortable? How's the battery going to last?
Yeah.
Am I using it in a cold environment? Have I got gloves on? And
Yeah.
we all know that gloves and touchscreens,
Yes.
they're
Yeah.
not the best experience.
Correct.
So do I need to think about a device that's actually got a physical keyboard so that I can interact with it? But then the other side is, actually, do I want a multi-role device? Going back to that retail example,
Yeah.
if you're talking about just picking up a device and using it for an hour and a half just to do a quick internet shop for somebody that's going to come and collect it in their car in 20 minutes, then actually do you want a device that's perhaps used during the day for price markdown? Is it used for doing other roles within a retail store? So I think looking at the role, looking at the length of time it's going to be used, and what's the weight of the device, it's pick the one that fits that use case. And sometimes giving customers a choice, and we all know they've got budget constraints, so maybe they can't afford the Rolls Royce, maybe they need themselves a BMW. So what we need to, if we can give them the choice of, do you want this one or this one, what's going to fit your needs and fit your budget?
Absolutely, and I think it's not only affecting, as I said before, also the efficiency. It's also the health, let's say the healthy condition, of your workers, because it's much more safer, and you can protect much more yourself from doing jobs which normally are very hard, And I'm not talking. We had a discussion before about. I was very excited about the exosuits, which it seems to be a concept that you don't work with, but certainly we are seeing a big evolution in how this technology is helping the people to work in a safer and much healthier environment, right?
Yeah, and we're seeing that shift. I think everybody's very aware of
Exactly.
employee safety. How can we make sure that you pick up parcels correctly, you don't hurt yourself? And wearables can really help. If you look at the legacy devices that we used in warehouse, and you still used a lot of places, are the sort of the traditional gun form factor.
Yeah.
So a device, a brick on a stick.
Yeah.
Well, imagine you're trying to pick up a parcel. What do? Do you balance it on the top?
Don't forget we call them bricks, eh? So
Yeah, exactly.
we call them bricks for a meaning, for a reason, right?
Yeah.
So
Because they withstand that
Correct.
Durability needs.
Correct.
And they're still perfectly good.
Absolutely.
They work where they need to work. But if you've got those big items, you've got this gun form factor, a brick, you're scanning something, you're putting it on the top, you've then got to carry two things, you don't want to drop it.
Yeah.
That's where a wearable can really just free you up. You haven't got to keep putting up, putting down. You just focus on the one thing that you're doing all the time.
And
Is that
it
a
will
good sales
increase.
argument?
And it will increase a lot the efficiency of the worker, right?
Yeah, you're putting your energies into the work, not the items, the tools that you have around you, and moving them out of the way.
You almost forget about them.
Yeah.
I also wonder one thing, well, in fact, I wonder two things. I wonder more, but two things I want to point. Number one is health of the employee, of the worker, is a good sales argument or is a secondary argument in this, let's say, wearable proposal to the customers?
That's a really good thought. I would say it's a secondary argument. I mean, companies invest based on business returns. So generally they are financially incentivized. It's how quickly can they do this work? How efficient can they be in a role? But increasingly, companies are becoming more socially minded.
Yep.
They're thinking about their workers. Equally, as you said, if you've trained somebody up and you've got them used to your process and what you do, you want to make sure that they are as healthy as possible.
Yep.
So anything you can do just to make them safer in their day-to-day business.
Yep.
So I do think it's a secondary consideration, but absolutely it's one worth talking to. Plus, if you know that your customer is one that's really strong on looking after their workers, maybe it is the primary message.
Yeah, absolutely right. I mean, I think in a certain way it's also parallel to what happened with the robots, right? I mean, of course, when you are in a warehouse and you decide to incorporate robots, into your lines, the first thing you think is about, hey, how efficient is this? Also talking about the shortage of people. Hey, it's not about replacing people. It's about making the job that needs to be done, and we don't find people enough to do it, so we need assistance. And then after that, I think once you have been discussing about efficiency, the first question who comes there is like, by the way, if I have people walking in the warehouse, how safe are those robots? So I think in a certain way it goes also in the same line, right?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, when we look at our dedicated wearables, we are very mindful about how do we fit them on a wrist. What happens if it gets caught, gets snagged on something? We need to know that it's safe, it can break away,
Correct.
And the worker's protected.
Correct.
So again, that's another consideration to think about is rather than just taking a generic device and trying to fit it onto a wrist, dedicated devices have these safety features built in.
And also from the mental point of view, I mean, does a worker also gets less tired, working with wearables, or you think is maybe increasing the stress on their job?
I would hope they're less stressed and more comfortable. I guess it comes back to the company as well.
Yeah.
If you are changing the information that's displayed on that wearable to just be the next step, make it really simple. Go here, do this, do that. That's much easier for a worker to decipher and understand, less stressful than having all this information on the screen where you're trying to, hang on, which bit am I supposed to be looking at? What am I supposed to be doing?
Yeah.
So I think there's a responsibility on both to make it more comfortable.
Yeah, absolutely right.
Right. So also I have a question, because obviously we are working with the traditional products, or the mobile computers, and you've been an expert in this area, mobile computing, etc. I was
Well, he
wondering.
called himself an
Yeah.
expert, but
I think he
You
whether
call me
he is or
expert.
I
not,
think
yeah,
he is. I
well,
think he
he's
is.
invited here as an expert too. So
Well, actually, I believe you are. So, having saying that, I was wondering where Zebra sees the future. Where does Zebra see the wearable going on in the future?
So I think the big thing is, as we talked about, it's already got a strong foothold in the warehouse, and I can see it expanding outside of that. We did a warehouse vision survey last year, and we found that about 40% of respondents already had wearable solutions. But by 2027, which is only, 4 years away now, they were looking at nearly 90% of deployment of wearables. So I think the traditional inside a warehouse, whether it's picking, parcel sortation, I think those are going to continue to explode, and they'll use dedicated devices. But I think we'll also see more, as I said, the retail shop floor, if you're doing fulfillment in that part.
So basically, we're seeing this technology going in different markets than the traditional one, like warehousing and TNL, etc.
Yeah, I mean, there's even future visions. I mean, can you imagine your parcel delivery driver, actually, if they had something small and lightweight on their wrist that told them where to go and was able to take that photograph when they've done a delivery? I mean, is that something that we perhaps ought to get to? I mean, they're jumping in and out of a vehicle. Do they really need to take a device in and out? Could they have something on themselves? I mean, there's lots of potential for this, but it's got to balance.
yeah, but I mean, in a certain way, I have the feeling that every time we start talking about wearables, we come to a kind of bespoken projects, right? So there is no one single solution which is fitting for every single situation. So depending on where the worker is, what kind of action he needs to take. But more than that, if we are talking about the warehouse environment or the healthcare environment or the retail environment, we need a complete different, configuration, I would say. Probably the technology is the same, but the configuration might be difficult. So how do you address that one? I mean, how from a manufacturing point of view, you cannot have only one single proposal to the market. You need to cover a wider area, right?
You're right. And so I think there's a couple of ways that we can address that. We do have some customers that want one device to do everything.
Yeah.
And I understand that. It makes it easy to manage. It's very simple. You can almost have the same application. So we've got customers that take the same device, a TC, a touch computer. They take it out and use it on the delivery drivers.
Yeah.
And they then put it on a wrist, or they put it into a gun handle for the warehouse.
Yes.
Now, that's probably good enough. And it comes back to, is it good enough, or is it going to make a significant difference? We then have the other extreme where we've just announced something called the WS50, a wearable solution. So it's a 2-inch display, Android 11 device. So it's got its own processing, own Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, NFC, and a barcode reader or a camera in it. A really small device. So this starts to shift, and you're right, this is where those dedicated use cases fit in. You do need to write the right applications. Don't try and run the same app as you've used on those bigger devices. But we're seeing that really take over because it's Android, you can manage it. Because it's Android, you can do security with it and security updates.
Yeah.
But then you've got far more hands-free. We've got trials underway at the moment of people wearing it on the back of their hand for parcel sortation. Now, mostly, you just want to scan it, and as a consumer, I want to know it's past the checkpoint. It's in my local delivery office. But actually, for the person doing the work, they want to scan it. Oh, there's a bit of an error. This one's running a day late. This needs to go in the priority queue. Suddenly, they've got simple information that says, move it to this place.
Hey, we are even talking in the healthcare business about implementing below your skin, right? So I mean, this is really
it's getting close as the technology.
I don't see that in the warehouse. I hope I don't see that in the warehouse.
You join a company and they say, right, now we're going to inject you with the
Like
latest.
you have a lot of chips there.
Yeah, we're not there.
No. I think, and that's also one of the beauties of this, let's say, business opportunity. If we see it from the business opportunity point of view, it's like, once you go in that direction, it's scalable. So you don't stop adding more features, adding more technology. It's like, I mean, come on, we all have, watches, smart watches, and we all have all these kind of trackers. And then once you have a tracker, then you want a smart watch, and then when you have a smart watch, you also want a smart, I don't know, whatever. So you go more and more into that, and you are connecting things in a wider thing. So the opportunity from the business point of view never stops.
Yeah, and I think that also fits in part of the e-commerce growth. Every point
Absolutely.
along the supply chain, more information that we have about what's going on. If you use back to the parcel idea,
Yeah.
knowing that it's gone from this point to this point to this point to this point, collecting that means you need devices to do so. The fact you've got a wearable device, suddenly it's easier to collect that data, to record that change. So I think, yeah, as you get in there and as you change the applications, the market will grow and grow. And if you can go in and talk to your customer about, look, I know you're doing this today. How do you sort of change in your business model to move to this? These new wearable technologies open new doors. And once you've got them, by the way, you can move it into this part of your business or that part of your business. It's really a growth area. And I think customers appreciate that insight.
Yes, absolutely. That's true. Meanwhile, I get scared, Paul. We are talking about many wearables, many pieces of technology here, they're flying around myself, How is that impacting? And by the way, all of them are transmitting data. So I'm getting a little bit scared on the level of security and how is this conflicting with the current systems, right? So, and let me give you an example. Most of us, we have antivirus or protection, software in our computers, in our networks, whatever. But most of the people do not have anything like that, on the mobile phones, which is normally the entrance door for the wrong people, right? So having more things connected on the hands of workers, which might not be specialists, in technology, because of course they don't need to be, is not really lowering the level of security in a company.
No, so when Android first came into enterprise, it was really immature. It was really about consumer use. It was about Facebook and Twitter. Android has grown over the years, and we're a strategic partner with Google on Android development.
Same of us.
Yeah, and they are focusing more and more on the enterprise capabilities. So now you've got your enterprise device management. You can lock the devices, you can secure the devices, you can log in and out of the devices in a secure manner. So you're right. As the use of more and more wearables grow, you've just got to make sure that it fits in with your enterprise security model. And because, as I said, the WS50, it's an Android 11 device. I mean, it just fits.
Yeah.
So you can apply the same security policies to it as you have done with all your other Android enterprise devices.
When we're selling to customers, Philippe, do you think security is a key element on those?
Definitely it is.
Okay, but it's a key element that people wonders at the beginning, or is like healthy, let's say, or healthier environment, which comes after the first element, which is the efficiency and the data collection that you can have with these systems. I don't know what you think on that.
Well, I believe that the efficiency will be the first one again, because depending on the on the company who will adopt this kind of technology, they will think always to improve something, get more profitability, etc. So that comes with the efficiency. But definitely, and more we are talking about security, definitely. So I think that will be probably the second factor. Third factor, probably the safety of the workers, I would say.
Because the consumer world has been stepping heavily into this kind of technology, of course, everything is driven by that market, So I wonder, is there a place for the professional devices into the wearables, or we are going to admit that probably in the future, most of the equipment use is going to be a consumer kind of product?
So I think the consumer uses are driving how enterprise adjust. I think there may be roles for consumer device in an enterprise space, but there's always that trade-off. A consumer device is only ever manufactured for 1 year, and then you've got the next version and the next version. And so if you're trying to run your business on it or validate your applications on it, that's a real headache. So I can see consumers pushing enterprise technology to evolve. And with the WS50, as for example, if you look at how it can be wrist worn, how it can give you notifications, but it's actually going to be manufactured for 3 years. Now, if you're deploying that into a automotive manufacturing plant, that is heaven for you. You can deploy it, manage it, use it, and you can depend on it for your business. You've not got to keep thinking about it every year. So, yeah, it's interesting dynamic, and it continues to shift, and it challenges us.
Absolutely. So let me reverse the question. Do you see a bigger threat, in this wearable market or industry, from the consumerization point of view than in any other business?
Probably less so, because again, the whole point of wearables is it's fit for purpose. It's designed for an activity.
Correct.
Back to that person sorting parcels, there isn't really a consumer device that's designed for that activity. So I think if anything, actually, the wearables are probably more protected from consumer devices, not the pressures, not the trends, but the specific devices.
Okay.
That's fantastic. So we've been talking about all this good stuff about wearables, hands-free, safety, efficiency, and security, all that stuff. But I was wondering that if I'm a VAR, a reseller, and then I would like to know why should I approach an end user to talk about this new technology? What kind of key points I should mention to get them on board and buying this new technology?
Okay, so I think the first thing is to understand what is it they're trying to do. What are their business goals? I mean, if they're looking to increase efficiencies, perfect. That's a great door opener. If you then look at how they're doing their business today, back to that idea of picking and moving boxes. If they've got a huge, great mobile computer that they put on the top, and you can just watch people in their workplace and see how they're doing this, there's an opportunity there. Say, did you know we've now got smaller, lighter devices with the same information? So observe, see how they do their work, and then you can recommend the right kind of device for their use.
Again, as you said in the past, the right device for the right application, right?
Absolutely. But you've also then got to balance that with the right device for the right budget. So if they are limited on budget, then look at a bit more of a multi-role device. So perhaps a TC where you could be using it out of the warehouse, but equally you could put it on the wrist for a warehouse. Exactly. Again, if that's good enough for them, then that's what they should go for. But if they want that mission critical, they're really going to be working it hard in and out of freezers, then they need to look at the right freezer capable device. So so look at what you're doing, look at what you're trying to use it for, and clearly what's the budget.
Yeah, I mean, we are talking about efficiency. We are talking about healthy, and now you come with the budget, right? So it had to happen, all right? But this is absolutely true. And I can imagine if we are talking about efficiency, the budget and the return of investment is really a key element there. Hey,
sorry, I think you just picked up on a really important point, actually. Return on investment.
Correct.
The budget, they may only have budget for 1 year, but if you can demonstrate that actually you're going to show them benefits over 2 or 3 years, suddenly that opens up the conversation away from, I've only got these many euros to spend, versus we want to improve our business. So absolutely crucial.
And honestly, I think we have touched enough elements like to make this clearly an opportunity for many of our let's say customers. We are talking about efficiency, healthy, return of investment. I think those are the key points. I think that's music, for the ears of any reseller. So we hope that many of them are taking the opportunity to go into this business. Of course, Paul, thank you very much. Zebra has got many let's say products which can fit in many different business. So we thank you very much indeed for sharing this kind of market insight with us today. So Felipe, thank you very much for joining us again with Zebra, and then hopefully this will end up in a good sell.
Thank you.
So thank you very much.
Thank you.
See you soon.
Thanks.